Our meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. At this time, we have the invocation by Gavin Crisco, Department of Juvenile Justice Chaplain and Lynn Haven resident.
It's an honor, thank you. Would you bow your head and pray with me? Lord God, I pray, first thank you for the many blessings that you give us every day. And I pray we see more and more of them. God, I pray for all the elected officials here today that you give them the grace required to govern this city. And I pray that you equip them to serve every and all needs that this city has. And God, I pray just as Isaiah needed to see a throne, I pray that you show them a throne so that they always remember that you are sovereignly ruling over the nations, and they should go to you, God, for Lord, help and provision. And finally, I thank you for the redemption work you did upon the cross so that we can be saved if we only call upon your name. And God, thank you for your love, and we also love you. In Jesus' holy name, amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This time, will there be any public commentary? Please remember to state your name and address for the record. Ms. Fields.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. My name is Ellen Fields, 3507 Hidden Valley Road, Lynn Haven. I wanted to talk this morning about a few suggestions. I really appreciate that everybody comes up and they talk, and I want to point out the screen behind us that when you see the screen, it looks like a nice, clean meeting, which it is, but from behind us, we had a little bit of chaos at our last meeting, and I guess I specifically wanted to bring up some recommendations. So I don't want anyone to, think that I'm picking on you, but I felt that we could streamline our meetings just a little bit better in a few ways. And the first one being the issue was the unorganized selection process and method of public commentary. When we have a situation where we know there's going to be a lot of people coming up to speak, perhaps that's a time that we could make a list. Everyone could put their name down, their address, and then you have the option of calling out the names, because people behind us, again, you cannot see it on the screen, but they were standing on top of each other, waiting to speak, and I really applaud everybody for getting up and, coming to say their piece, because it was important to everybody on both sides. But again, it was chaos, and I felt it could have been a little bit more organized. So again, suggestions such as, filling out a slip or making a list and handing it over to you, and then also maybe putting a little, mention. I know some people sometimes walk in late, just say, does anybody else have commentary? And, give them a chance to speak. That was just one of them. Next, I had an issue when somebody turns around and addresses the audience behind us. We're here to address you and speak. And I felt that you should have said something, because it felt like a little bit threatening. And I'm sitting there observing, absorbing, and if I felt that way, which I'm a pretty tough person, imagine somebody else who was being accused of certain things, how they felt. So, again, I ask that all of you as commissioners and city manager work together, and if somebody did do an act like that and they're not supposed to, that's breaking the rules. We have rules, and if you need to remind people, remind them, this is the rule, don't do it again. And then last, it's again a suggestion, but it's changing public commentary instead of number 3 to number 7. Because again, at the last meeting, I didn't know that a lawyer was going to be here speaking, which, again, I thought it was great that they did. But that day, I actually was with the one person that spoke to you, Jamie, and you answered, and I spoke to you, Ms. Gaynor, and we had great conversations, threw back ideas, but I did go and call Tallahassee, and I did make some phone calls. And so, again, there was not a chance for me to get up and say, but wait a minute, he's made a mention of...
Thank you.
I'll bring it back next time.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? Mr. Walker.
Good evening, Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I've been advised by a few people and citizens of my delivery. It's a little bit harsh, and I'm supposed to smile, so I'll smile. And I'll try but my subjects sometimes get hard because I get involved in them deeply. Things about public commentary is one of them. And what we've been having going on lately is dealing with personalities. We're bringing too many personalities into this. When I deal with an issue, I deal with an office, for example, and no disrespect, I say the city manager, and I mean the city manager's office. I don't mean her personally. There's too many personalities getting involved in our discussions. I would like to see that change. I do not do that. I bring up the office. And that's what is a challenge. Public commentary. Just a little bit of indication is what we have to go through. For example, tonight, we're not allowed to speak on anything that is on the agenda. Okay? So it's not on the agenda last time. And tonight, it's there for the first reading. And then we can't talk about it. Now, later, we're going to vote on it. Then we only have 3 minutes to talk on it, on an issue. We don't get the chance to talk about it. You do. You discuss it. The staff does. They can get up here and talk for 20 minutes. We can't. Staff has more rights than the citizens. I don't think that's correct. However, we should be able to speak on, and prior mayors, chairmen, and directors of the meeting have allowed us to speak first reading, second reading. In one incident, we bounced that subject down the aisle. We kicked the can down the aisle for 3 months, and the citizens didn't have a chance to speak about it at all. I'd like to see a little bit of laxity in public speaking from the chair, whether it is the mayor, I'm thinking of the chair, that we allowed speaking on the subject because we'd only get 3 minutes. And sometimes it takes us 3 months to get there. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public commentary.
I have a prepared statement, but instead I think I'd just like to talk to you guys. The last meeting was, I felt like, turned around and twisted from the victim, which I feel is Commissioner Tender, and what the insults that she received from your chief of police. He did not tell the truth before December the 12th, 2022, when he was forced to testify and finally admit the truth. Before that, weeks before, he was asked, have you ever had any comment about my lifestyle? That was asked by Commissioner Tender. And I heard, no ma'am, that wasn't honest and it wasn't truthful. The silence was deafening from you all. It's not right. You're supposed to be leaders. And Mr. Aldridge, I wish you would at least do me the courtesy to look at me when I'm speaking with you. The insults were off the chain. I didn't insult anyone in my commentary. But again, things turned on Commissioner Tender, as though Mr. Ramey is the victim. He's no victim. He's the perpetrator. Mr. Obos, I asked you if you would please find out why Mr. Marcy did not interview the victim. He interviewed everyone else, but did not interview the person that was offended and hurt the most. And she did not and has not ever been over the top about her lifestyle or anything. This happened because of your chief of police. That's how this all rolled out. And I will not stand here now or in the future and allow that to be twisted around. It isn't right. And if anyone has any kind words for Commissioner Tender, instead of doing it over to the side, Commissioner, maybe now is the time to say those kind things. I'll look forward to hearing, Mr. Obos, what Mr. Marcy said about not interviewing Commissioner Tender.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? Mr. Hines?
Thanks, sir. George Hines, 1603 Rhode Island Avenue. I just came forward to tell you, the city of Lynn Haven, I appreciate the opportunity of last Monday having the Martin Luther King Festival here in Lynn Haven. We've been here for 5 years now, and I just want to say thank you on behalf of ACURE, our civil rights organization, their futures, and host that for your support. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Additional public commentary? Mr. Gray?
Brian Gray, 1513 East 9th Street. The Financial Review Committee, has that been passed to where it's going to, the reason why I'm asking because I'm on it and I don't know that I can be on it, so I just want to make sure I'm not on it if I'm not able to be on it.
No, he was replaced. Remember,
Oh, okay.
we had that conversation.
Oh, okay, I just want to make sure I didn't remember.
Yep.
Okay, good. Also, ordinance 1137, adopting the International Property Maintenance Code. I understand the gist of it, and it seems like God bless them, the code enforcement folks can kind of handle most of that, but it just, some people I've talked to, and I haven't talked to everybody in Lynn Haven, not yet, but they're just concerned with it gravitating towards an HOA type thing for the whole city. And also the ordinance 1144, fixing a hole in the wall. I understand as a homeowner, you need a permit for everything except gutter work, which I found that out the hard way, but maybe we can, I don't know. Egregious violations, definitely they need to be dealt with for sure, but maybe there's a better way to do this instead of, I don't know, hammering Joe homeowner. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Additional public commentary?
Jerry Parker, Rep Place. I just want to reiterate sort of what Christy said, and I know I'm going to beat a dead horse on this, but y'all know this has been my passion from day one since you became mayor, the public commentary. It is not citizen-focused. It's not, Mayor, I'm sorry. It's just not. And the fact that you say it's for decorum, that's a lame excuse. It needs to be more citizen-focused so that we can respond to what you guys say. We don't have that opportunity. Y'all get up here and give your reports. We would like to say some stuff after that. We wouldn't have to wait for 2 weeks to say that. Okay, that's too long, okay? And in reference to Mr. Marcy, I find it awful interesting that he said he's been an investigator for a long time. Since when does lawyers protect the perpetrator and not the victim? Since when? This is a dangerous road we're going down, folks. It's not a good look for the city, and people are noticing. Lots of people are noticing. People outside of Bay County in the entire state. So just take that into kind. Thank you.
Additional public commentary? Thank you. At this time, we have the mayor's report. We'll respond to, I guess, some of the public commentary. One, I guess, in regards to streamlining the meeting so it won't seem so chaotic. I don't think I had to call anything to order at the last meeting, so it wasn't very chaotic. We have considered actually having people to sign in. Actually, some cities require you to sign in and actually petition maybe about 2 or 3 days in advance of the meeting. But because we do want to be citizen-focused and friendly, we just allow people to come in and say their public commentary at the time, because if your name is not on the list, there's no guarantee that I would remember to even say, is there additional public commentary? So certainly understanding, we looked at all those options of how we can sort of streamline our meetings or make it seem more orderly per se, but I think that would be unfair to those that are running behind for the meeting if they're not here in a timely fashion to get their name on the list. Also, in regards to addressing the audience behind you being threatened by someone, I think that's really more inflammatory language. I don't think anybody that was giving any of their public commentary was threatening anyone. I don't think they threatened anyone to do physical harm to anyone. And there were several people who, looked around or whatever during their public commentary. So I try to sort of be observant of that as well. In regards to changing to number 7, so that I guess additional people could speak, I do know that's something that Ms. Parker has mentioned several times in regards to changing to number 7. But I do remember in these same meetings that I would sit in prior to becoming mayor, that there was the issue with it being at number 7, that the commission would never respond to the public commentary. So if we move it to number 7 and then the commission doesn't respond, because during the response, if you still have 3 minutes, then people get upset if you impede on their 3 minutes and say, well, you took all my 3 minutes by your response. Hence, we moved it to agenda item number 3, 1, to help with the decorum, 2, so just like I'm doing now, can respond to the public commentary. And for anyone to think that you have to wait 2 weeks to come back to do public commentary, obviously you're not reaching out to the city manager, the commissioners, prior to that with your issue, which is where it's handled. So if you have a concern, if you have an issue, don't think you have to wait until your 3 minutes to come up and speak about it. You can always call, set up an appointment, and sit down and talk with the persons that you think you're having that issue about, or express that issue that you're having, versus the 3 minutes that you're limited to during our time of public commentary. So I would encourage anyone, if there's any concerns that you have, reach out, email, make a phone call to your commission, to your city manager, to the department heads, whoever you would like to speak to regarding those issues that you're having problems with. Because again, we're not going to solve problems in the 3-minute time period that we have doing public commentary. Those problems are resolved during conversations. And some of the problems that we do have need to be resolved sitting across from one another, drinking a cup of tea, drinking a cup of coffee, and hammering those issues out. I agree with Mr. Walker, sometimes we do have too many personalities. But I do try to remember that, most of the time I usually don't take anything personal. Usually it is because of my position, whatever people say. And I think if we take things too personal, we take that stuff home, and I don't have time to take any of this stuff home. I have a loving family at home that I need to take some of this stuff to that we receive here as city commissioners, as city managers, and so I try to leave that outside the door. So I try not to take any of it personal. Sometimes it does get personal though, but I still just try to, forgive them for they know not what they do, kind of mentality, like Jesus. And moving on from there, in regards to the remarks to Commissioner Tender, sorry, Commissioner Tender, if you were offended by the remarks that people made at the last commission meeting. However, it's public commentary, so if I would limit what anyone would say, then I would get accused of bantering public speech. So it's certainly not rewarding for me to hear any of us get beat up on by anyone that comes to the podium. So I think we need to keep that in mind. We just can't run to one person's defense. We have to make sure that none of us are coming up here beating up on anyone, because I don't think any of that's right. Okay. So again, sorry if comments were made at the last meeting that were, offensive or hurtful to you. But again, if I say, hey, you can't say that, you're violating my First Amendment right. Right. I mean, I get accused of that for letting people speak for 3 minutes, saying that I move commentary from 7 to 3. That's violating freedom of speech rights. So I think all of us need to keep in mind what our comments are and how we say things and what we say to one another and about one another, because what's happening up here, and let me say, people have been looking at Lynn Haven a long time before December 12th with Chief Ramey on the stand. So we've been under fire a long time before then. Okay, so people outside of our community have been looking at us a long time. And so I think we've all worked hard at trying to rebuild our image as a community. And it's going to take us working together, forgiving one another for whatever has happened in the past, and moving forward together in love and unity. in order for us to really come together and show that we really are a great community, and we are a great community here in Bay County. So just encourage all of our citizens to do that. Moving on to other parts of my report. It was great and diverse attendance for the celebration of the Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So thank you, Acura, for allowing us to partner with you on that. Had a great festive day, and a lot of citizens came out throughout the day and just were really excited and celebratory, and really commented on how well the event was organized and the great diversity of attendance that was there, as well as the diversity of performance that was there as well. Got a chance to hear John Cannon sing CeeLo Crazy, so I'd love to hear him sing that. And so yeah, it was great to have all that participation. Working with residents to resolve some stormwater issues. Also received several commendations for our city staff. So thank you, Public Works. Thank you, Public Utilities, for the work that you do beyond your regular scheduled hours. So thank you all for that. Received several emails about that. I think I forwarded those to the city manager, so she could, make sure to just commend those. And so we certainly appreciate what you do. Excited to go by and see the lights get turned on at the new, or the renovated sports complex. That was real exciting. It was all oohing and eyeing at that, and so that's real exciting. So looking very forward to opening day. We've been talking about it for a while, and so it certainly seems like a reality after a little over 4 years now. So we're just real excited about that as well. This time we're going to have our proclamations. Have our proclamation for Black History Month. And it says, whereas since 1976, every U.S. president has officially designated the month of February as National Black History Month to honor and affirm the importance of Black history throughout our American experience. And whereas the United States joins other countries around the world in devoting a month to recognize Black history, including Canada and the United Kingdom. And whereas the observance of Black history began in 1926, when Harvard-trained historian Carter G. Woodson and Minister Jesse Moreland sponsored the first National Negro History Week, which was celebrated the second week in February. And later in the 1960s, as part of the civil rights movement, the observance evolved into Black History Month. And whereas much of the city of Lynn Haven's honor, strength, and success can be attributed to the diversity of cultures and traditions that are celebrated by the residents of this great city, and whereas African Americans have played significant roles and made lasting contributions to our city's history and the history of Florida's economic, cultural, spiritual, and political development, while working tirelessly to contribute every aspect of American society, including business, education, politics, science, and the arts. And whereas Black History Month is a time for all Americans to remember the contributions and legacy for those who helped to build our nation, fought against prejudice to secure lives of dignity and opportunity for all our citizens, advanced the cause of civil rights for all Americans, and strengthened our families and communities. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jesse Nelson, and the City Commission do hereby encourage all residents in the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, to join me in honoring the many contributions made by African Americans to our city, state, and nation, and to participate in the many educational and inspirational events as we celebrate and proclaim the month of February as Black History Month. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the city of the city of Lynn Haven, Florida, to be affixed this 24th day of January 2023. So looking forward to the different events that we have planned in the city of Lynn Haven celebrating Black History Month. Proclamation. Whereas Leon Miller was born May 12, 1933, and grew up in Panama City, where he was affectionately known as Slack to his close friends. After graduating from Rosenwald High School, he matriculated to Wiley College in Marshall, Texas, where he received his bachelor's degree before returning to Panama City to teach social studies at Rosenwald High School, also coaching basketball at Rosenwald Junior College. Whereas he became the coordinator of minority services and a recruiter for Gulf Coast Community College, now Gulf Coast State College, having the special ability to connect with people and break down barriers. And whereas during his time at Gulf Coast Community College, Leon Miller became the first African-American basketball coach in the Panhandle Conference. And whereas Leon Miller became the first African-American elected to the Lynn Haven, Florida City Commission, serving on numerous boards and committees, including the Bay County Council of Aging, Board of Directors, American Red Cross board member, and he was currently serving as a board member on the Pan Care Board and Bay County State Transportation Board. And whereas Leon Miller created an amazing legacy serving students in Bay, Gulf, and Franklin communities and the citizens of the Bay County community, receiving many awards and honors during his lifetime of service to his community to include Gulf Coast Community College Humanitarian Award for outstanding contributions to Gulf Coast Community College and the Bay County community, the Gulf Coast Community College Distinguished Service Award, the Florida Black Student Union Advisor of the Year Award, American Red Cross Disaster Service Volunteer of the Year Award, recipient of the Jefferson Award, recognizing Bay County citizens who provided outstanding community service and involvement with youth, Human and Civil Rights Committee Association of Bay County Educators, Human Relations and Education Award for outstanding community leadership, Norris D. Langston Youth Scholarship Foundation recognition for dedicated community service, Bay County NAACP Community Service Award and Lifetime Achievement Award, Panama City Alumni Association of Florida Memorial College Distinguished Service Award, Upsilon Alpha Alpha Chapter of Omega Psi Phi Community Service Award, A.D. Harris School Unsung Hero Award, Lynn Haven, Florida Citizen of the Year Award. And whereas he founded the Jackson E. Jones Baseball Youth League and was the co-founder of the National Retention Program for African American Students, also being inducted into the Florida Community College Activities Association. And whereas was Mr. Leon Miller was the first person to celebrate Black History Month in Bay County, and whereas Leon Miller passed on Monday, August 15th, 2022. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jesse Nelson, and the City of Lynn, and the City Commission, on behalf of all the residents in the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, do honor the many contributions made by Leon Miller to our city, state, and nation, and hereby proclaim the second Monday in February every year as Leon Miller Day. And witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, to be affixed this 24th day of January 2023. This one's a little bit shorter. Whereas Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, aka, is an international service organization that was founded on the campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. in 1908. It is the oldest Greek letter organization established by African American college-educated women. And whereas Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority is comprised of nearly 300,000 members and approximately 1,018 graduate and undergraduate chapters in the United States, the U.S. Virgin Islands, the Bahamas, Bermuda, Canada, Dubai, Germany, Japan, Liberia, and South Korea. Led by International President Lynette Anthony Reed, Alpha Kappa Alpha is often hailed as America's premier Greek letter organization for African American women. And whereas the local chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Xi Omicron Omega, was chartered in January 29, 1983, in Lynn Haven, Florida, now comprising 28 members throughout Bay County. It continues to uphold the mission of the sorority, donating to the community food banks and various charitable organizations, supporting local high school and middle school students through various education initiatives, honoring local veterans, and giving out more than $5,000 in annual scholarships to college-bound students, and numerous activities throughout the year. And whereas Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated was founded on a mission comprised of 5 basic tenets that have remained unchanged since the sorority's inception more than a century ago: to cultivate and encourage high scholastic and ethical standards, to promote unity and friendship among college women, to study and help alleviate problems concerning girls and women, to improve their social stature, to maintain a progressive interest in college life, and to be a service to all mankind. And whereas the Noble Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated celebrates its Founders Day anniversary on January the 15th of every year, and whereas, in honor of that anniversary, we are immensely proud to recognize the Xi Omicron Omega chapter and its members' existence of 40 years in the community for the numerous ways they lend their talents to enrich and enhance Lynn Haven and Bay County, Florida. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Jesse Nelson, and the City Commission do honor their many contributions made to our city, state, and nation, and do hereby proclaim January 15th as Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Day and January 29th as our Omicron Omega Chapter Day, and encourage all residents to extend best wishes and gratitude to members within the organization for their continuous contributions and demonstrations of persistent years of service within our community. A witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the city seal of the City of Lynn Haven to be affixed on this 24th day of January 2023. So in closing for my report, I think today and many days is just a demonstration of the greatness that we have here in the city of Lynn Haven. Certainly, we've had some horrific and tragic things that happened in our past. It's probably going to be some bad things that happen in the future. But I think if we just continue to focus on the greatness that we have within our community, the greatness of who we are as a city, I think we can overcome all of the challenges that are put before us. Another great citizen made us proud on Friday evening. We had a chance to go to the Bay County Chamber of Commerce annual dinner, and to see, it was great to see former state senator George Gaynor receive his award, but was certainly greatly proud of Mr. Frank Hall for receiving the award that he received as well, knowing that he's a great representative of our city throughout the state of Florida and in the community that he serves. And so, again, we have greatness here. I think if we can just lift up the great, not that we overlook the bad, but I think we can overcome the bad with the good if we just continue to focus on that. That is my report. Commissioner Aldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much. First, we had the Lynn Haven, I believe it was the first annual Lynn Haven Industry Luncheon last week that I got to attend with Commissioner Warwick and the mayor. It was a very good time. Just to put this out there and so the public knows, the city is working to try to bring things into this city, bring other sit-down restaurants and some other things into this city. So we are being proactive and working on that, and I'll let the city manager, I'm sure she's going to expound more on that. But and then we did have the banquet on Friday night, which was a really, really good time. And I agree, Mr. Frank Hawes is an awesome asset to the city. He has served the city and the debt review committee, did a great job, and I'm thankful for him. And that's my report, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Perno.
Thank you, Mayor. We received an email, city manager wasn't copied on it, but I made sure that I forwarded it on to her because in the body of the email spoke about the assessments and tryouts for football and the fairness, and I think city manager responded very well to that. I also had some people commenting to me about why are we doing the tryouts, or they call them assessments, for baseball during football, and I responded and said, look, we're getting the fields ready. We got to get a grip on what the numbers are, how many kids are coming out. So, and it looks like it's going to be really, really good. So I kind of spoke on behalf of the city, even though I kind of knew the answer beforehand. So we've really got to support that and get as many kids to the fields as we can, seeing as our first time, getting out there, so we can get our numbers back up. Had someone talk to me about a business called Grits and Grace. Have y'all ever? It used to be on 77, and then it moved to St. Andrews.
Yeah, I think they do a lot of catering now as well.
Well, this person had asked on behalf of the business. It's kind of like third party stuff, but it was like talking to someone at the restaurant. and they said that the people were having an issue trying to get back into Lynn Haven, and I would welcome something like that with open arms. And their location is supposedly on Florida Avenue, but closer to 390. And I didn't know if the construction or the road construction or anything had something to do with it. But they do, from what I've been told, they have a building. So if any of you are getting any information about Grits and Grace, just tell them to get up here and talk to the city manager, or email the commission and the mayor, and we'll be happy to, to help look at their plight and see what we can do. So, like you said, we welcome more business, especially an established one. So, and Ms. McElroy, I just personally will tell you that I made a personal apology to Ms. Tinder after the last meeting, as a personal gesture and the way I know her personally, that I'm sorry for what you're having to go through. I'm sorry for any of this. I'm not directly involved, but man, it hurts to see you hurt. And I know Miss Victoria, I've seen you guys, and I'll say it again, I'm sorry. This ain't this, I wouldn't want things to be said about my spouse, and I apologize to you on behalf of her as well. So that being said, if it needs to be acknowledged publicly that I made a personal apology, and I stand by it again. So there you go. So with that, and as I normally do, Ricky, this whole thing is, it's got to play out. So I'm sorry it has to, but I do appreciate all of our first responders. I appreciate all of our city employees. I appreciate everybody that comes to these meetings, because without your, you can call it positive or anything, but what comes from your all's hearts is how we hear things at the city, and it's all Lynn Haven. So we put it out there at every meeting. So we're here to do what we can do. So. Thank you, city manager, and thank you, mayor, So sometimes it ain't easy, So with that, that's my report. And let's move on and be positive.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. And in light of what you mentioned, some don't know, and some may know, on Friday after our meeting with pre-commission meeting, city manager, Chief Ramey, myself, Lieutenant Ainfinger did meet with Miss Michelle Smallwood. She's the president for the Gulf Coast LGBTQ+ Center, as well as she had a conference call on with a state representative from Florida Equality, or Equality Florida. So we did meet with that local group to discuss steps that we can take moving forward in order to make sure that none of our citizens feel threatened or unsafe in our community. And so we did have a good dialogue. I think maybe about an hour and a half or so. We did have those conversations, had that conversation so Chief Ramey can make his expressions, and we put together a 3 to 4 step strategy on how to move forward and to try to make sure that those that have been truly impacted and affected by this issue, would have some resolution, and
sounds like healing. We need to heal.
Yeah. So we did talk about that, and hopefully she'll follow up with you on her part that we've asked her to try to work on for us as well. So it is something, certainly. We don't necessarily. It's something that we're not throwing under the rug, or something that we're not overlooking. Having to be very diligent. Careful and prayerful how we address this and move forward with this. And so we're still taking steps to help bring resolution and healing, as you said, to this problem. Commissioner Ward?
Don't have a whole lot. So kind of stemming off what you were talking about with residents coming to talk to us, I was actually hoping that a lot of people would have showed up to my time with Commissioner I had on the 21st of January at Tacos Way. As you guys...
You need to go to Beef O'Brady's, man. People don't want tacos, they want chicken wings.
Then people start talking,
Sunshine.
But and I was really hoping a lot of people show up, because I had a lot of information about what was going on, and to be able to to give them some of the correct information, because there is misinformation going on out there. And it's not all misinformation, but there are some misinformation out there. So as you guys know, I do my due diligence, research on my stuff, and I was really hoping to talk to some people about it, but we had about 4 people show up, and we didn't talk about that at all. We talked about a lot of other things, so. But I'm always open. I mean, you don't even have to go to that. As you know, you can call me, email me. I'm normally pretty good at responding pretty quickly. My number is 850-391-1217. I know last commission meeting I had talked about, you know, if the shoe was on the other foot, I'd be upset too. But I know some people made a comment that it didn't sound sincere and it didn't apologize, and if that was the case, I apologize. So, I regret that you have to go through what you're going through. Don't wish it on anyone, and so I apologize for that if it came off like that. So, I think that's all I have. But yeah, anybody wants to talk to me, I'll talk to any residents that want to talk to me. I'm more than happy to talk to you. And that's pretty much all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Thank you, Mayor. I would really like to thank you for saying what you did. It means a lot. I got to tell you, in my life, like I said before, I am who I am. Yep. I don't feel like I'm going through anything. I mean, you know, if you didn't hear it when you were 10 or 12 or 15 or 20, you haven't heard it all. So it's all going to play out. It will all work out exactly how it's meant to be. So thank you very much.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your reports. City Manager?
Okay. Kiki, if you'll come.
Commissioner Tender?
I don't know. I have a couple, but no, I don't even have it pulled up. I'll email you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we began our audit. That's getting ready to start, and there will be a lot of information going backwards and forward to our auditors. Remind you about smoke testing. That's underway, and it'll be behind McDonald's. And due to the color and odor, we just want to make sure citizens know that we'll be doing that smoke testing. One of the great things that we did, and we said we were going to do this the entire year, and we started off with a bang, is that we did a Celebrate Florida Arbor Day, and that was on the 21st. We gave out 100 trees to our residents. This time they were a little bit larger than before. So people were coming out probably like they were last time in their cars, and the trees were a little bit larger. And we were glad to do that, actually. On average, these trees were between 5 to 7 feet tall. And we were going to have 2 additional giveaways in February. So one of our goals is to at least give away 1,000 trees this year to try to make sure that trees are replanted. So that's a big part of our goal. You've heard a lot of talk about the grand opening and the grand opening of the ball fields. You know, we have lots of rebuild projects going on. But the first and foremost is our grand reopening and opening day of the ball fields. This year, we have, including coaches, over 608 people in terms of, we include coaches and our players. That's a lot of folks from compared to last year. And it tells you that Lynn Haven is coming back strong, and that there's going to be a lot of fun and yelling and playing and activities going on in the city of Lynn Haven very, very soon. So that grand reopening date is March 4th, and you should be seeing something come out very soon about that. We are surely up in our numbers. We have so many coaches that have committed to helping out our softball and baseball this year. And yes, we did have to start early for this very, very reason, so that everyone has the chance to be evaluated and to be placed on a team. We don't ever want to, in any way, look over any youth that wants to play in our league. And so we talked also about the leadership meeting, industry meeting we had last week. There were 18 participants. And some of the surprises that came out of this is that what's the #1 shopping place that people come to in the city of Lynn Haven? Publix. All over. Publix is number 82 worldwide, this Publix in the city of Lynn Haven, which says again, yes, that was surprising to everyone. A guest speaker, Chuck Branch, talked about our local retail market. He also discussed our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our potentials for great growth within the city of Lynn Haven. And this company has really helped us put things in perspective, giving us data and other things that will help us grow our economic value within the city of Lynn Haven. So we're pretty excited about that. And also, just a quick thank you to our fire department. They responded to a fire last week, and this is actually from the resident. Had they not responded as quickly as they did, the resident would have lost their entire house. They only lost a very small portion in the back. So I want to give a great thanks and prompt shout out to our fire department. And then the sheriff's department is asking that if you have a camera, that you would go on and register that camera that's outside of your house with the sheriff's office. This just helps to track down criminals when they're in your neighborhood, and be able to utilize those cameras from all angles to help keep your neighborhood safe as well. So if you go onto the sheriff's site, and we can put that also on our site, if you will register, if you have cameras, that so when a crime happens, they may contact you and say, hey, can we have footage of your cameras to be able to track down anything that has happened. My table talk is this Thursday at 5:30. Hope to see everyone there. We're going to be talking about infrastructure for the future. What are we doing to prepare for the future? Because Lynn Haven is surely growing, and there are a lot of things that are going on that you will want to know about, that we're going to be doing in the next couple of years here at the city of Lynn Haven. And lastly, we will be celebrating again Black History Month. Next month, there are many, many activities, and we've been fortunate enough to secure the Black Wax Museum so that we can have our schools to come through and visit some of those figures. And we have someone here that will be here that will talk about some of the things that are in the museum, and so we're looking forward to it. Of course, we'll have our arts and have a contest with that, as the commissioners have to judge, and they sometimes have a very difficult time doing that, so we look forward to that as well. So you'll see a lot more things that will be happening in the next month, and that is my report.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may, can I expound on her report for just 1 second? When she spoke about the cameras, the Bay County Sheriff's Office put out and they launched an app on your phone, so you can download Bay County Sheriff's on your phone and get all kind of good information. So if you want, it's a very, very good app. It talked about a good team to join. That's a good one. So,
Thank you. Thank you, City Manager. Thank you and your staff for the hard work you do for all of our citizens. All right, City Attorney.
Okay. Yeah, real brief. I already see my name next to items 10 through 14, so I'll try to be brief on this one. I also wanted to echo what Commissioner Perno and Wart said to Commissioner Tinder. I do apologize that I know you're not having to go through anything, but that we're in this situation and having to constantly talk about it. I don't think anybody wants to do that. In response to Ms. McElroy's question about interviewing, I just want to reiterate, the city manager, decided, and I've talked to her about it certainly, that we wanted to handle this as a personnel matter or labor matter. That's why we consulted with Marcy out of Tallahassee and did not dictate, how he was going to do this or who he was going to talk to or anything like that. So I know from talking to him, his focus was on people with firsthand knowledge, and that's all I can say about that. I mean, he can speak for himself, and I'm happy to talk to Ms. McElroy after the meeting to expound on that. But there was no slight to anybody. He was just, as somebody doing an inquiry, you're going to look for fact witnesses of who has firsthand knowledge of whatever the allegations are. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Consent agenda minutes from 1/10/23, an award bid for HMGP Fire Station Safe Room and Wind retrofit to Hammond Design. Is there a motion for this?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Motion, Commissioner Tender. Second, Commissioner Ward. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Moving on to agenda item number 10, final reading of ordinance number 1137, adopting the International Property Maintenance Code, regulating and governing the conditions and maintenance of all property, building, and structures. City Manager, if you'll read this by title only, please.
Sure. And this is a pretty long one. I'm actually going to take this out so we can see it. An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, adopting the 2021 edition of the International Property Maintenance Code, regulating and governing the conditions and maintenance of all properties, buildings, and structures, providing the standards for supply, utilities, and facilities, and other physical things and conditions essential to ensure that structures are safe, sanitary, and fit occupation and use, providing for the condemnation of buildings and structures unfit for human occupancy and use, and the demolition of such existing structures in the City of Lynn Haven, providing for the issuance of permits and collecting of fees thereof, repealing all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing effective date.
Thank you. Of course, we've discussed this several times now. Is there any additional questions or comments from us about this?
I do have a couple of comments about this. My instincts tell me that we're getting to the point where I think Commissioner Aldridge said one time, getting over the top, too much control, we're messing in people's homes and all of that. I don't have a problem with going into businesses that are falling apart and they've just closed up and the buildings are sitting there for months and months at a time, like we've experienced after Hurricane Michael. But I really do have a problem with the government going into people's homes and doing all these little things. It seems like another way to make a few cents, and it also just seems like such an invasion. It's like, well, whoever, I think Brian reverted to HOA. It's like we have, we're going to tell people how to build a porch, how to, do all these things on their own property. And I just, it leaves me really nervous. I just wanted to say that.
And I do understand your sentiments and certainly not debating. One of the things we did mention Friday is that even without this, I think we already have a lot of regulations in regards to how people should build, where they should build. And oftentimes what happens is people just build without permits. So one of the things that we're discovering is that when people are trying to sell or buy a home, they have a lot of things that are not permitted that are within the home, like conversions of garages to rooms, new, electrical panel boards, like, homes on New York that have been totally renovated, but there was no one to come in and do, an observation of it, and no one to come in and actually approve it. And so I don't think we're trying to invade anyone's home or be proactive about going into homes. We're just trying to, I guess, just regulate on the back side of what some people aren't doing on the front side in regards to getting them permits. And sometimes things are just oblivious to us as homeowners, like, well, I didn't realize we had to have a permit for this or have a permit for that. So I've called the the building department several times to ask, do you need a permit for X, Y, Z, and they would send me the links to send to homeowners so they can see all the things they need permitting for as relating to the various upgrades in the home. So it is a challenge to see the application of this, and some of it's going to be based on how it is applied by that code enforcement officer as well. So
One of the things too that I've dealt with this with a resident a number of times last year. I've been told that code enforcement were not allowed to go on the property. All we can dictate or rule from is the street, what we can see from the street. So how does this apply to the inside of somebody's home if we're not allowed to go on their property? How does that work?
City Attorney.
Yeah, I mean, on code enforcement, they can get it's not really a search warrant, but a investigative warrant. They'd actually have to go and show some sort of probable cause and go on there. But you're right, your typical, you can't fly drones and look in people's backyards, stuff like that. And, so there is a process they would go through. And I know from talking about it, I know for several months now, this is really intended to be just another tool in the toolbox for code enforcement to complaint driven, not to go knocking on doors and asking if they can walk through somebody's house, but it was going to be complaint driven. And like we talked about, if this starts going off the rails, you bring it back and repeal it or cut out certain sections. But yeah, I mean, there's a legal process, through a investigative warrant basically to go in there on code enforcement.
On this particular ordinance that we're talking about here, does it apply also that if a person turns somebody in, say my brother lives down the street, I don't like him, by gosh, he's opened up his electrical box and left the door open and everything's hanging out. So who do I call code enforcement, file a complaint? Will they tell him, my brother, that I called?
The law, it's only been a couple years now, you can no longer have anonymous complaints.
So they
it would
will
become
know.
It would become a public record.
Everybody will know who's called to turn
As of
them
about
in.
2 years ago, I mean, if you went and did a public records request, yes, there's no more anonymous complaints in code enforcement.
Thank you.
Any additional discussion?
I guess I'm kind of confused because when I read it, it seemed like most of it was like building codes and things like that.
It's the maintenance side. So, the building codes are on the construction side. This gives them tools for the maintenance side. So you say, okay, you got your building permit, we'll check you out. During that construction process, they do their periodic inspections, and then you get your CO. This gives them tools on the maintenance side. Say, okay, you put that HVAC system in out there up to code, and now it's failing and falling apart, and somebody complains. I mean, so this is the maintenance side. It's the flip side of it.
So is there anything specific in there that what you're discussing falls in that criteria you're talking about?
I got an email from a resident.
I didn't get anything.
Did you get it?
No.
And he was naming some pretty ridiculous things that this particular international code covers, and it was very petty. It was very petty things. So
and I think we talked about it, so it can get it. It looks at like square footage of rooms and houses and stuff like that. And again, that's going to be, our code enforcement is not going to go out there and start measuring rooms. Now, if somebody took their house, for instance, and carved it up and made 8 little rooming houses, we don't want that.
Right.
So we do want to have that tool available to go in there, and that could just be something that we could cite them for and say, oh, hey, look, you've got a bunch of 75 square foot rooms, and it's not allowed under the property maintenance code because, so, it cuts both ways, but there is going to have to be some trust in our code enforcement department.
How would this apply to the situation over on 10th Street at the entrance of the Home Depot or fuel depot? Remember the rooms for rent and all that, and they kept bringing more buildings in and putting them behind a fence where we couldn't see what was going on? How would that apply to that? Would it give us any more
Leverage.
I don't know. I mean, I know what you're talking about. I know there should already be codes in place for that as far as not bringing them on with a permit. So this might, if it didn't meet square footage for a dwelling unit, so it could. I don't know exactly the square footages out there and that sort of thing, but it could if people are just bringing buildings on or bringing sheds on and having people live in it, for sure.
I guess this is the part I'm struggling with is we've been talking about this, I think, so it's October, I believe. And I mean, it's a good discussion. I just wish we had the discussion back then. And not wait until we have the final reading. But that's the struggle I'm having.
Anybody want to make a motion?
I move to approve.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Aldridge. Discussion from the public. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Corey Lane from 1112, Louisiana. It sounds like a couple of you have at least read what's in here, and I hope for at least the elected officials, every one of you have read this cover to cover. I opened it up and read some of this myself, and I was appalled at some of the things that were in here, but most importantly was the right of entry. This is 104.3, and I'm going to be real quick to read this. Where it is necessary to make an inspection to enforce the provisions of this code, or whenever the code official has reasonable cause to believe that there exists in a structure or upon a premises a condition violation of this code, the code official is authorized to enter the structure or premises at reasonable times to inspect, perform, so on and so forth. So yes, they can enter. This is not what we want for Lynn Haven, okay? I don't know why we're passing or wanting to vote to pass a one-size-fits-all code when what we need to do is determine what problem are we trying to solve. And let's legislate that, let's address that problem specifically, and then let's vote on that. But we don't need a one-size-fits-all process for here. We don't need anyone coming over measuring square footage of bedrooms to determine how many people we have sleeping in there. This is what all this stuff covers. It goes into grave detail. It's not just building codes. It is maintenance. 12 inches. Can't have anything other than grass or shrubs in your yard 12 inches. I can't grow 2 rows of 10 feet of corn in my yard. It's a code violation. So what I did is I've been riding around just eyeing houses, trying to figure, well, according to this, that would be a code violation just from the street, okay? So I strongly oppose more regulations, specifically which addresses homeowners and our ability to maintain our property, so on and so forth. So unless you've read this cover to cover, I would not vote on this. We did speak about it in October, and what I said is I didn't want this to come to the Lynn Haven HOA, and that's exactly what it is. We may not have the code enforcement person right now, and we may be able to trust the code enforcement person right now. What about a year from now? What about the commission 2 years from now? The government is taking control if you pass this, and that's not what we want in Lynn Haven. It may work in Panama City Beach, it may work in somewhere else, but this is not what at least I want for the city of Lynn Haven. Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir. Ms. Corey, come back, please.
So you said initially when you saw it in October, you weren't in favor of it.
No.
So why didn't you reach out to us? I don't, this is the part I'm struggling with because I make myself available all the time.
Yep.
You've emailed me.
Yep.
I've always sent emails right away. You call me, I talk to you. I just don't understand why I'm finding out about this now. You're bringing up good points, but I just wish I knew about this earlier.
What I said in October is I wanted to see what was in the code. I said, I don't want this to become the Lynn Haven HOA. I want to see what is in the writing. All right, and that's what I did. Is I went back and read it and said, wait a second, whoa, I don't like this. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to come to your thing on Saturday. I was out of town, and I apologize for that. And I had multiple opportunities to reach out to that beforehand. So that is on me for not reaching out to you all and voicing this concern. Unfortunately, tonight is when it is, and that's what it is. But thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
Rich Walker, I'm going to smile, thank you. You will never ask me that question because you will get the answer. Listen, what you just heard and what came and is proposed by this little company that makes up ordinances for California, New York, Dubai, and international to tell you how to live. safely. We have enough codes, we have enough ordinances to cover everything. If you have an unsanitary place in a commercial building and it's a restaurant, boy, oh boy, you won't even enter the door. I read this particular. I went and followed every instruction that you said. You cannot get a copy of this on their website. You have to pay for it. Yes, the city manager has a copy, 4 copies. That doesn't help the people that don't know about it. This is a breach. This is a breach. This allows, and it was explained to me by this commissioner over here, that this is to enhance our safety and give the code enforcement people more power. They got enough. After this hurricane, people have learned. They build fences, they get a brand new truck, and they get a brand new boat. They build fences so that code enforcement can't see. You know why? Because code enforcement harasses them. We now have drones that fly over this city because the fences are there and the code enforcement can't see in. What are we out for? We're out to get the citizens. They have to pay for this. This is ridiculous. I took a look at their cable of what they do. If you allow this to happen, you're infringing on one of the amendments to the Constitution, day service and seizure. In there it reads, you're going to give the code enforcement people the will and the power to demolish your house. Since when is our homes, our property, not our property anymore? We have already the codes. Florida statute says you can enhance the codes, you can't take them away, but this enhancement is a total infringement on the liberties and owners of property in this town. I don't think you should. I have to honor his statements. He's 100% correct.
Thank you.
You should listen to him. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Rita Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue, and I have to agree with the gentleman from Louisiana Avenue. I agree 100%. Having my own little battle right now with a building permit from the city. And my question is, if you should pass this, is there an appeal process if something should come up that code enforcement says is incorrect? Will there be an appeal process?
Yes, yeah, there are always with or without this, under our existing code enforcement system, you would get a notice of violation, tell you to fix something, and if you don't fix it, then you get a citation, and you can appeal that citation to a code enforcement magistrate, basically a judge. So there's always, with or without this, it would be the same system where you would, if you got a citation, somebody said, look, you need to pay $250, you can appeal that to an independent magistrate.
Okay. And so for what it's worth, I think it's a little bit too much policing also. Thank you.
If I can add on to what Ms. Miller said, what is the cost to appeal? What is the cost to the resident if they want to appeal?
I don't know what I mean, there's like an administrative cost. I think if you lose, it'll be added to your fine. But there's not there's not a fee to file an appeal.
Not like the variance people.
No. Right, yeah, there's not a fee to file an appeal.
Kathy Bruce, 301 Indiana Avenue. I apologize that I did not read this sooner, but when I was looking at the agenda today, I read it, and I thought it sounded very invasive, very broad, but as a professional realtor, I have a question because it said on there, if I interpreted it correctly, that if there's an issue, that you can't sell your property until it's resolved. Did I interpret it correctly when I read that?
I mean, we can't stop anybody from selling their property. I think if there's there was a code enforcement fine that turned into a lien, obviously that lien would pop up and we would get paid, would have to get paid at a closing, but there's
I wish
nothing-
I'd brought it with me
Yeah,
so I
we can't.
could read
I mean,
the
that's a
part,
private
but
transaction between two people. We can't stop
It looked
anybody
like
from
it
selling
said
their
you
property.
couldn't sell, and I think of all the people that sell as is, like, maybe they don't have money to fix it, and they just want to get their property sold, and anyway, so
Yeah,
that was a concern
yeah,
that
we
I
have,
had.
We have no control over anybody selling anything other than if we have a lien on there, that would have to get paid, but.
Only if
we
there's a
would-
lien, not just if there was,
But we
if there
can't,
was a
you know,
violation.
we can't stop it. I mean, and you can sell it with a lien on it, and that person would just take subject to the lien, honestly, but.
It just sounded really, really broad. I mean, I understand wanting all of the tools that you can. I want our area to be beautiful too. I mean, I do, but I think that maybe pick and choose some of the items from that code, but all of it was very invasive. That's just my thoughts. I would encourage a no vote.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Sam Peebles, 1902 Caroline Avenue. I just kind of wanted to, hearing the people talk, the citizens talk, I just kind of have a suggestion of maybe a happy medium here. If ultimately the goal of this is for safety, I would suggest to look into finding a way that maybe it should be that if you should make it, or see if it's possible to make it to where we hand this list to home inspectors. So if ultimately is the safety of the people buying a house, which ultimately that should be the reason we have the safety, is rather than, it could be a happy medium that we require home inspectors to check these checklist items. That way, if the potential buyer has the ability to decide if they want to buy this home or this structure based on what this home inspector found. Also, because a lot of times home inspectors are kind of independent, hired home inspectors. If you have a home inspector required to check certain things, I think that would be a happy medium here to where we're protecting the safety of potential buyers, but also not enforcing rules on people that have no intention of selling their home. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so there's a motion on the floor. Commissioner Perno, would you consider amending your motion to table it so that we can further discuss this and look at it in a little more detail?
Most definitely.
And I'll do the same with my second.
All right, so there's a motion to table by Commissioner Perno, second by Commissioner Aldridge.
Before you vote, Mayor, I mean, we already advertised for second reading, so again, this is a situation where if you need more time, fine, table it to a specific date. That way we don't have to re-advertise it. If it just needs to be open-ended, table it, and we'll just know we'll have to re-advertise it, which should be cheaper this year because we can put it on the website. So
let's
it's not
table
as big
this
of a
to the
deal.
first meeting in March. It gives us a couple of, gives us a month to look at it. So we'll table this to the first meeting in March. Okay. All right, City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Perno?
To table
Yeah,
To table, yes.
Yeah.
Table till March.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Till March.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. And would just seriously encourage everyone for the specific issues that you have with this. If you would highlight those, please send them to us as we're discussing this over, reading over it again, discussing this over the next month so we can see those specific issues and concerns that you have with this so we can make it a part of our discussion.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I make one clarification? We do not fly drones over your house to
Correct.
look in the back of your
That's-
house.
Right.
That's an invasion of privacy. We
That's
do
your-
not do that.
That's a nosy neighbor. Yeah.
Your neighbor.
Could be your neighbor, but
Your
it's not,
neighbor.
it's not code enforcement. No, you can, no, you cannot. No, you cannot.
Yeah, we can't do it. Yeah.
Is your neighbor?
Your neighbor.
Did you get a code enforcement violation? Okay. Could be your neighbor.
All right. Agenda item number 11. Final reading of ordinance number 1145, amending and updating the charter. So we've had a lot of discussion about this as well. So we'll see how this one goes. All right. Any further discussion from us regarding this? Again, thank you to Commissioner Perno for the suggestion that he made. Thank you to our Charter Review Committee, City Attorney, for organizing it in a way that could be very readable and understandable for our citizens. We do know the city manager has mentioned that there's going to be a very non-biased communication of this to our community, so they'll know what's going to be on the charter, on the referendum for the upcoming election. Do let me say this, there's no pressure here. We don't have to pass this, but I did talk with Mr. Mark Anderson, and basically if we don't pass this tonight, then it doesn't go on the referendum for this year. Right. So there's no pressure to pass it, but if we miss it tonight, it's not going to happen to the next election, okay? So no pressure there, guys. All right, is there a motion for this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, City Manager, if you'll read the title, please.
Ordinance number 1145, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, proposing 4 charter amendment questions, to wit. The First Amendment mandates a review of the charter every 5 years, requires background checks for the city manager and all department heads, provides that the canvassing board shall report to the commission consistent with current practice, and makes formatting and grammatical revisions to the charter. The Second Amendment adds term limits to the offices of mayor and city commissioner. The Third Amendment fixes the compensation for mayor and commissioners. And the Fourth Amendment approves charter updates, assigning duties in the absence of the mayor or the city manager, directing the supervisor election, placing a referendum on the ballot of the next general election, providing ballot language, providing for notice of referendum in accordance with the law, providing for codification upon passage as referendum, and providing an immediately effective date.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? All right, City Manager, if you call the vote. Commissioner Perno made the motion, Commissioner Ward made the second.
Commissioner Perno?
He made the motion.
But you made the motion?
It was there at the same time. Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes, and thank you, Charter Review.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Tindall?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. New business, number 12, first reading of ordinance number 1146, section 10.00.04 of the UODC to provide rules for application of new development standards and regulations to development orders extended beyond 2 years. City Manager, if you read this by title only, please.
Ordinance number 1146, an ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending section 10.00.04 of the Lynn Haven Unified Land Development Code, providing rules for applications of new development standards and regulations, repealing provisions of an ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for codification, and reciting an effective date.
And for those who are not familiar with this ordinance, basically what this ordinance does is that if someone, say for example, a business has made application for new development, and then after that application expires in a year, then they get 1 year extension under the old codes that were active during their time of initial application. If they request a second extension, then they have to comply with all the new codes, including stormwater and the other codes that are updated. So previously, I think from talking with Miss Amanda when she made her presentation to us, that right now we don't have anyone that would be able to fall outside of this window and requesting new extensions at this time, that they would have to begin to comply with our updates that we've made to the various codes and ordinances at this time. All right, agenda item number 13, discussion of alternate stormwater assessment rate, method, and vendor. City Attorney.
Yeah, and I brought Mark Lawson over here today. He'll give us a brief presentation and summary. He's been a consultant with out of Tallahassee. He's an attorney as well, with various assessments, fire assessments, stormwater assessments, you name it. I've had him help us in the city of Springfield about 10 years ago now to put a fire assessment in there. He's done work with Panama City Beach. He's very familiar with this area, and again, a lot of experience in stormwater assessment. So he can get up and talk about a different methodology of assessment. As we know, we have a stormwater assessment. We've had it for 2 years now, and so he can talk about an alternate system that may be more fair and palatable to the citizens. Mark. And he'll keep it brief.
Yeah, and before he speaks, for clarification for the audience, we are not voting on this tonight. This is something, again, that we discussed several months ago about our stormwater assessment rate, and we talked about having a different method of looking at it. And so we're going to have a brief, about a 10-minute presentation on that today. City manager, myself, and staff have already heard this presentation in depth and in length. City attorney as well. So we definitely have a good grasp on it. If we, as a commission, after hearing this tonight, we'll discuss this a little bit later on, decide that we want to know more about this, then we will have a workshop on this to come back and get a little more detail and a little more discussion on how this could really apply. So tonight is just a presentation. Thank you.
I'm going to turn on the stopwatch. My version of that. Good evening. My name is Mark Lawson. My wife and dog live in Tallahassee, and I drive around the state in a car. And I've done that for about 40 years. I have a lot of different expertise. I'm a board-certified state and local government lawyer. I have a real estate background. I have a public administration degree as well as a law degree. I've been on the board of directors of one of the largest public finance firms in the state. And for the last 10 years, I was practicing in shelter before COVID came along, and so I was really prepared when COVID did come along. Yes, I have done a lot in non-ad valorem assessments. That is what some people call a benefit tax. It's how you charge for essential services and capital improvements, and that's an expertise of mine. I'll keep it short. I have been involved in the case law for 30-some years. I've been involved with the people who developed the uniform collection method, and I've acquired an expertise. All the way along, though, I've always tried to pattern what we do based upon what Florida's laws are and understanding the nature of a non-ad valorem assessment. It is different than a tax. It must be proportional, and it must benefit property, not people. But the Supreme Court has told local governing boards, it's up to you how you do this. You've got to search your souls and find the best way to do it. There's no perfect way to do capital or service assessments. That's from the 1920s. So, stormwater is relatively new, and not until 1985 that we have stormwater assessments in Florida, the Sarasota case, and that methodology is based upon impervious surface area. The law will simply tell you there's lots of ways to achieve equity. Your current program is focused on that. There's nothing wrong with that from a legal standpoint, but it yields lots of anomalies. Sometimes people would call it unfair. That's in the eye of the beholder, and that's for you, the local legislative body, to determine. I've developed, along with two professionals, Dr. Owen Beich and Dr. Frederick Bletcher, one's a professor at UCF in Orlando, one's a professor at FAU. They're both consultants. Owen's a community development expert, and Fred is an engineering expert. We've developed a different approach using a 1950s, much talked about and written about Tebow theory. What that is a professor or an educator in Chicago studied why do people want certain goods and services, and he found out that they tend to vote with their feet. In the 1950s, they didn't have computers or iPhones. Now you have all sorts of data, you can make that work. We've done that. We did that for Panama City Beach to revamp their program a few years ago. We validate that. So what Kevin's asked me to do is to explain that approach to you. It's real simple. What we use is data that the property appraiser you pay for as a community acquires and develops and combs. We use the very best data that he reports to the Department of Revenue, and he updates it every year. We go back and take that data after the Value Adjustment Board has given the property owners a chance to complain about it. So we're using pure data that's allowed people to say, I don't believe you're correct. But even if you are wrong in the way we do assessments, if the property appraiser changes this data, we'll change that too. What that does is take the burden off of you as a city to develop an ID or database. Now, we take that and then make that transparent and make it proportional. The charges are based upon every parcel paying an amount, no matter what the size of the parcel is, because a big parcel or a condominium, they all take up the same time and effort to map and do those type of fixed costs. And then we use the data the property appraiser updates every year that relates to improvement value as a proportional way to charge big and small across the board. It doesn't have to pay attention to impervious service area. Because I will tell you, in order to make that system work, you've got to have all this mitigation credit opportunities. And what it also tends to do is squeeze up to the top. You talked about economic development here. You can look at your role. I already looked at it. You are charging your economic development engines, the people who provide jobs, mightily in the approach you have. I'm only here because you invited me to come. I have a better mousetrap. I work with the two economic people and planning people. I work with data people, Erin Pomeroy with ENED. She handles the work for many cities around here. I also work with a company called David Tosick and Associates. And what I'm doing in my life is I'm creating redundancy for everything I do. Everybody that I work with, I have a backup. So if I drive out of here tonight and wreck the car, someone steps in. Because I have many, many clients that depend on us year after year to develop and work these programs. I'd be pleased to come back and speak with you all more at your workshop. If you would like to instruct the mayor and the attorney or the manager to get together and work with me to work up an approach, we have a standardized approach, the way we do it. I will not charge you the same amount of money that I charged the beach. There'll be a reason why not. Part of that is you're in a redo mode. And I work with governments all around the state, and sometimes you have to look at the situation and say, these folks are looking at a redo. It's going to be hard for them to do the stand-up again. I'll try to work that out and find out how to do that. Our job here is to stand up a program that is impervious to challenge. I'm a lawyer, so everything we do, we validate, which is a legal proceeding that simply has the court say, yeah, this is a solid program. The revenue you get from it, you could use to bond. I was on the board of directors of one of the largest bond firms in the state of Florida. I understand that process. It's a good way to get certainty and repose. We want to put things to rest and move on. We also want to pay for what we get in this world. You make the decision, how much budget you have. I'll show you how to digest a significant part of it and how to use the soup of revenue that you have available to you as a community so that no one can say, I don't like this, and my lawyer says you're going to have to give all the money back. I've been to all the hearings for 30 years. I hear the same stuff over and over. We're great Americans. You know what we all try to do? Make the other guy pay. We all want the stuff, we want someone else to pay. So, in a lighthearted way, I can tell you that I've sort of been around and know how to put these things together. I like to do it. I do live down the street in Tallahassee. And if you'd like to have me come back and explain it, we'll pull the data. The way I work typically is I want consensus. I don't want to work with a board that's 3-2. This is hard enough. I want to educate you so you all understand this is a good decision. You make a collegial decision as a body, and we go forward and implement it. I'm an expert in implementation. The key is due process. The key is running a good meeting. The key is allowing people to comment. And the key is implementation and transparency. Everything we do, we put up using the internet and let people look at their neighbor's assessment because everyone wants to know what the other guy's paying. And we are also educative. I'm not going to convince everybody, but I pledge to you, you will have the best of our ability as a group to educate, and you have to make hard decisions on how you fund essential services and capital improvements. I like what I do. My best witness is Kevin. He's seen me work. His partners have seen me work. Call Amy, his other partner, Amy Myers, the city attorney, or Holly White, or we call him Mr. McQueen. I work with the Panama City as well. The key is education, do it right, find the way to make it the most proportional way you can. Don't make the data up, use the data your property appraiser develops. I'm an old abstractor, among other things. What's the best title plant in every community? The property appraiser's database. What's the most accurate information he pumps up? What he uses to certify to the Department of Revenue. We don't use the messy data. We use the stuff that he's proudest of, and the data points come out every year. We look back. It works well. Is that quick? Now, there's a lot more detail to it, but I'm happy to come back. If you all want to appoint some people to have me work with, I'll give you a proposal and approach. The new thing about working with a lawyer that does litigation, I guarantee your code already has a provision. You can do this under your code. This is not necessarily an RFP process. I'm not coming to you with an engineering firm, although Owen does work for an engineering firm. This is not an engineering exercise. This is a community development exercise on how you fund your budget. By the way, when we get up and running after we do it the first year, this time each year, you'll have your data and you can do your assessment rate hearings early in the year so your people who do the budget know what to expect instead of waiting to the very end of the summer to deal with. Any questions?
Any questions? Like I said, we'll have further discussion on this. Yeah. Commissioner Perno?
The conundrum that after you just spoke is that we're about to take the next step. We're about to ante up again on stormwater or because of the method that we're in right now. So you know, we're going to go back to square one under your program. But would that be apples to apples, or is it yours something completely different?
These are two different rate approaches, completely.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you that what you've done is not legal. I'm telling you that it's in the eye of the beholder whether it works for your community. I can tell you absolutely that what we do is adhere to the proportionality rule, and we use data that you all pay as taxpayers, the property appraiser develops. Number one. Number two, we can do this and do this very quickly. We create an evidentiary document so we prove everything. We don't need a study. This is not up for grabs. This is a process. It's intellectual property. Once we provide it to you, it's yours forever. But it's not. I've already called one group on the carpet for trying to copy it and call it something else. The reality is, we work real hard at making sure this works. You'll be able to see it can't guarantee you that I can get through the court system as fast as I like to, but I can get you into court for a validation where the court says you can use this for bonding, which is a sort of gold seal, if you will. I can do that within about 60 days. And that includes the hearing, that includes the publication, that includes the mailed notices that the law requires. I also can show you this tonight. I can tell you right now, I don't think you're charging what you should be charging. I think you're paying for the cost of the tax collector at 2%. You didn't take consideration the adjustment for early payment, and you don't charge any kind of an administrative fee to cover your costs. You're leaving about $100,000 on the table that other governments effectively charge you. I can show you how to save that money, because here's what happens, I find, in this country, and particularly local governments. Your citizens want to pay for what they get. In the end, there's a few that don't. But what you want to do is to pass through the right costs so that to the extent you're subsidizing stormwater or whatever assessment program you have, you want to use these assessment dollars to free up money in your general fund. The general fund money comes from taxes. What's the most inequitable source of revenue you have? Taxation, because we've filled with it. We've got all sorts of exemptions. That's fine. But that's the most fungible dollars you can have. Assessments must be spent on what they're charged for, and we show you how to do that effectively. So we bring together a group of people, lawyers, economists, engineers, data people, and we give you an end product that works in the public sector confines.
Awesome.
So I'm glad to come back and explain it to you at a workshop. I'm glad to give you a proposal if you want to designate some folks to work with us.
Thank you.
Still got a question?
No, I'm just reading my fellow commissioners' faces.
No,
I'm open to a
workshop. We wouldn't miss a year and start over from scratch.
I'm open to a workshop.
Okay, I'm open to it, very, very much so.
All right, we'll work on scheduling that. Yeah. All right, agenda item number 14, discussion and possible approval of resolution 2023-01402, adopting the new Florida public notice requirements. City Attorney.
Right, yeah, we talked about this. I know I mentioned it in my comments last meeting. Effective January of this year, a new law went into effect that allows local government cities to do their public legal ads on a county publicly available website. Bay County's website is online. And so this is just a resolution opting into that. I will say, you know, as far as whatever strings are attached, there is an obligation if we do this to, obviously we have to put it on our website, which we would do anyway, a link to the county website, but also to maintain a registry for those people who would like the city to mail them legal ads or email. It says first class mail or email. So we would have to set up some sort of a registry for those people who want it mailed or email it to them and don't want to go to this website. But beyond that, it's supposed to be a cost savings as opposed to paying legal ads to the newspaper.
Tyler?
We put it on the county website, and it's easy to go on there, register, and do. And this lets us do it.
Got it. Any additional questions?
Did we look at how much money this is going to save us?
No, we did not. No.
Didn't we speak about doing it on the utility bills through Tyler as well?
Right, we mentioned Friday, we didn't work out all the details of it, but Friday we did talk about that if someone had not signed up for email, because some people get their utility bills email, then whoever gets the utility bill in the mail, it could be a part of that as well. So that would be the bill notification in which city attorney was referring to.
It could be additional since that program's already in place, right?
Yeah, right.
That's correct.
Right, and again, that's only for people who register and opt into that. I mean, obviously, there's no obligation to mail to everybody. It's only for those who really don't want to go to the website or can't.
All right, is there any further discussion on this? Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Aldridge, second by Commissioner Perno. Is there commentary from the public? City Manager, if you call the vote.
You want me to read the resolution first?
Yes, please. By title only, please.
A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing publication of city notices on a publicly accessible website as an alternative to newspaper publication, directing an annual notice by newspaper publication of alternative means of receiving city notices, providing for maintenance of registry of persons desiring receipt of the city notices by first-class mail or mail, directing that a link to the public notice website be conspicuously posted on the city's website, and providing an immediately effective date.
All right, thank you. All right, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Aldridge, second by Commissioner Perno. City Manager, if you call the vote.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Warwick?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Discussion and possible approval of resolution 2023-01-403 to amend the adopted general fund, CRA, and enterprise fund budgets. City Manager, if you read that by title only, please.
A resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the final budget for fiscal year 2022-2023 and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Could you give us just a brief overview of for this resolution?
Sir. Each year I come to you with an amendment to the current year budget for projects that did not complete in the previous fiscal year. You have already approved these items through the budgeting process last year, but for various reasons they were not completed. The audit requirement is that I highlight these and bring them to you for your approval to add to the fiscal 23 budget. I do have a detailed spreadsheet that was attached, and I've got paper copies if you'd like that tonight.
I'm good.
Questions?
All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, motion by Commissioner Aldridge, second by Commissioner Ward. Comments from the public? Yes.
Janet Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. I noticed our budget last year that was advertised and passed was a little over 71 million. Yes. This has jumped to 77 million. Where do we propose to get the remainder of that millions of dollars? That's question number one. Question number two is, I did notice under the admin section that the proposed adjustment was $2.3 million. Where is that going and for what usage is that? And then down on the bottom, under disaster, the new approved adjustment was at 1.2 something million. Could you explain all those to me? Thank you.
The adjustments that we're asking for tonight were previously approved in the fiscal 22 budget. We did not spend that money in the fiscal '22 budget. Therefore, there was savings last year. So we'll be using those savings from last year to fund this year's adjustments.
So if I were to go back to last year, we're talking
22.
we're talking 2021 to 2022, that's last year's budget.
Yes, ma'am.
If I were to go back to that budget, I could find this extra $6 million hiding.
You will find that to be the case when the audit comes out in March. Yes.
I will find that only in March. When the year
Well, I can give it to you now, but you'll, in the audit, it will be displayed as a budget savings. You'll see that we spent less money last year than we originally budgeted.
Is this something normal? I went back into the budgets for the city of London, and I've never noticed a type of adjustment like this. Is this, we usually have mid-year in March. I've never noticed an adjustment done this way.
I've only been here 3 years, so this is the third time I've done this, and this is per the auditor's instructions.
Now, will you re-advertise this, that our budget is no longer 71 million for this fiscal year, that it's going to be 76 million?
There's no requirement to advertise. No.
Additional public commentary. City Manager, you call the vote.
Just clarify, Kiki, these were already approved in previous budget year?
Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, just want to make sure. Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Meeting adjourned.